My wife wanted an open relationship, but she regretted it when her sister became interested in me. I've been married to my wife, Elena, a 33-year-old woman, for almost 8 years. We've been together for 10 and have 2 amazing daughters, ages 7 and 5. Honestly, I thought everything was pretty solid. I mean, of course we weren't in the honeymoon phase anymore, but who is after 8 years and 2 kids, right? We had a normal marriage. Sometimes we argued over silly things, like me leaving my work boots in the living room or overspending on Amazon, but nothing serious. I work in construction management. I started as a regular worker, worked my way up, and now I make good money. She has a corporate job that she seems to enjoy. We bought a house 3 years ago. The girls are doing great in school. We even got a dog last year. Basically, we were living the typical American dream, you know? But looking back, I realized I should have noticed a few things. She had been different lately, lighter, happier, suddenly more engaged with work. Before, she would just vent about her job like any other person, complaining about pointless meetings, annoying coworkers, the usual stuff. But lately, she talked about work as if it was exciting. And then there was Marco, her boss. At first, he was just a name that popped up occasionally in her stories. Marco told the funniest joke in today's meeting, or Marco's idea totally saved the project normal things. But then it started changing. She began mentioning him in small, casual ways that didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but now stand out like a neon sign. Like that one time we were talking about leadership styles, and she said, "You should hear Marco's take on leadership. It's really inspiring." Or when I joked about corporate buzzwords, and she immediately responded, "Marco says those words make a difference in building team cohesion," and it sounded like she actually believed it. I remember joking, "Sounds like Marco is your work husband." She froze for half a second, then forced a laugh and said, "Oh, stop it. He's just a great mentor." Okay. Weird, but I let it go. I was on the couch, in the middle of a YouTube video on how to fix the garage door, when she walked into the living room. She had that look, like she'd been holding something in for a while and had finally gathered the courage to say it. "Everything okay? The girls? Your parents?" I asked, still half distracted, thinking it was just some random update. Yes, everything's fine," she replied, shifting uncomfortably as if she couldn't stand still. "It's just that I need to talk to you about something." That got my attention. I paused the video and looked at her. "Okay, what is it?" she sighed. "I think we should, maybe try living separately but together, you know? Stay married but live in different places, sharing custody of the girls. Some people do that." I just stared at her, waiting for her to laugh or say she was joking, but she didn't. I even paused my repair tutorial because I thought I was hallucinating from the cleaning products I had used earlier. For context, everything seemed normal that morning. We had breakfast together. I helped get the girls ready for school. Goodbye kisses. Normal routine, no fights, no tension, nothing. So this came out of nowhere. I asked her more about this open relationship idea and where she got it from. Turns out she'd been spending a lot of time with her sister, Clara. Clara was this self-proclaimed expert in modern relationships who had already been divorced 4 times, yes. You read that right, and somehow that made her think she was qualified to give marriage advice. Like, wouldn't that make her more of an expert in failing a marriage? I tried to stay calm, and honestly, I'm proud of myself for that. I took a deep breath, put my phone down, and tried to have an adult conversation about it. I asked what made her think of this, if I had done something wrong, if there were issues I hadn't noticed. You know, trying to be that mature husband who communicates and all. But guys, her response was insane. She just sat there like she was talking about switching internet providers or something. She said she needed space and time for personal growth. She started throwing out a bunch of buzzwords that sounded straight out of a self-help book, one that Clara probably gave her. She kept talking about how open relationships were the future of marriage, and how so many European couples were doing it, because apparently what works in Sweden should work in suburban Ohio. The part that really got me was when she had the audacity to say that we could always move back in together. If it didn't work out, like this was a trial period, a new Netflix reality show we could cancel if we didn't like it. Like this wasn't our marriage, our family. The whole time she was talking, all I could think about was the girls. Like, how do you explain to a 7-year-old that mommy and daddy are still married but don't want to live together? Make that make sense. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop racing. I was never the kind of guy who even considered this kind of thing. Even when the topic of open relationships came up in conversations, usually as a joke, she always dismissed the idea. She said it was too much for her. She always rolled her eyes when she heard about couples trying these modern things. So what changed? Was I not giving her what she wanted? Did I miss something? I kept replaying the past few months, trying to pinpoint the moment things shifted, but I was sure she had been happy. She had been lighter, more energetic lately, and if I had to mark when this all started, it was when she got closer to her sister, Clara. Since then, it was like I had been living with a completely different version of Elena. I stood there, looking at her like she was a stranger, as if the woman I had spent 10 years with, the one I had built a family with, was no longer the same person now standing in front of me saying these things. Are you serious? My voice came out calmer than I expected, but inside I was boiling. She crossed her arms and took a deep breath, like she was preparing to give me a lecture on maturity and modern relationships. Yes, I am. I've thought a lot about this, and I truly believe it's the best for us. The best for us? How exactly is this the best for us? Did you just wake up today and decide you don't want to be married anymore? It wasn't out of nowhere. I've been thinking about this for months, she answered, irritated, as if I were an idiot for not realizing it sooner. I ran a hand over my face, trying to process what was happening. So, while I thought everything was fine, you were secretly planning to slowly get rid of me? It's not like that. I still want us to be a family, just in a different way. There's no need to be dramatic. I let out a bitter laugh. Dramatic, Elena? You're asking me to leave my own home, to accept only seeing my daughters when it's convenient for you, and you expect me to act like this is normal? She sighed impatiently. Lucas, please don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm trying to be reasonable. My blood went cold. Reasonable? Asking me to accept something I never wanted? There's nothing reasonable about this. She looked at me like she was tired of arguing. Look, Lucas, I wanted this to be a peaceful agreement, but if you make things difficult, I can handle it another way. I took a step forward, crossing my arms. What other way? She held my gaze, her expression serious. If you don't agree, I can file for full custody of the girls. My heart stopped for a second. What? You heard me. If I want to, I can argue that it's better for them to stay with me. You work too much. You're barely home. I could easily get sole custody. I let out a bitter laugh. You wouldn't do that. Try me. She was serious. I could see it in her eyes. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, was willing to push me out of their lives just to get what she wanted. I swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. This is about Marco, isn't it? She blinked a few times, like I caught her off guard. What? Ever since you got close to him, you've changed. You became distant, colder toward me. Do you want an open relationship, or do you already have someone in mind? She crossed her arms even tighter. That's none of your business. I let out a disbelieving laugh, shaking my head. None of my business? You're tearing our family apart, ending our marriage, and threatening to take my daughters from me. And I can't even ask if there's another man involved? You're being paranoid? She rolled her eyes. No, I'm not. Are you seeing him? She sighed and looked away. I don't have to answer that. That was enough. I already knew the answer. I clenched my fists, trying to hold back my anger. So that's it? You want to make a fool out of me, and you don't even have the decency to tell me the truth? Lucas, this is already decided. Either you accept it or we settle this in court. She was cornering me. I could fight, but I knew she would do everything she could to keep me away from the girls. I couldn't take that risk. I swallowed my frustration. Fine, my voice came out weaker than I wanted. I accept. She relaxed, like she had just won a battle. This will be for the best. A week later, I moved out. I rented a small apartment near the girls' school to make visits easier. I tried to convince myself that it was for the best, that I could still be a present father. But inside, I was shattered. At first, Elena pretended everything was normal. She sent messages about the girls, talked about schedules and school events, but little by little, the facade crumbled. It didn't take long before I found out she was with Marco. At first, it was just suspicions, small details the girls mentioned, like Mom's friend came over for dinner, offhand comments that made me uneasy. But the final blow came through social media. She started posting smiling pictures, dinners, trips, small moments that made everything obvious. And there he was, Marco, standing beside her with a satisfied smile like he had stepped into the life I had built. Each post was like a punch to the gut. I tried to ignore it, to tell myself it wasn't worth the pain, but it was humiliating. Everyone saw it, our friends, our family, even distant acquaintances. Everyone drew their own conclusions. I wanted to believe she would at least have the decency to keep it a secret. But no, she didn't care how I felt. And the worst part? The girls were caught in the middle of it all. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew something had changed. And me? I had to smile, pretend I was fine when I picked them up on weekends, act like my life hadn't crumbled in front of everyone. But inside, all I felt was rage at her, rage at Marco, rage at myself for giving in. But one thing was certain, this wasn't over. Maybe I had lost the battle, but the war was far from finished. I spent days obsessing over all of this. The humiliation wouldn't go away. Every time I picked up my phone and saw another post of Elena with Marco, it felt like a punch to the gut. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She didn't care. She wanted me to see it. The thought kept pounding in my head. Why? Why had Elena, who always rejected this kind of thing, who used to say that modern couples were just making excuses to cheat, suddenly changed overnight? And then an idea hit me, Clara. She was the turning point. Ever since Elena started spending more time with her, everything had fallen apart. If anyone could explain what was going on inside my wife's head, it was her own sister. I had her number. I stared at my phone, hesitated for a few seconds, then finally typed the message, Clara. I need to talk to you about Elena. Can you come over tonight? She didn't reply right away. When she did, it was short and direct. Okay, send me the address. I sent the location and waited. Night fell, and around 8:00, Clara arrived. I opened the door, and she walked in like she already knew exactly why she was there. So she looked around the apartment. This is your new place? Yeah, it's nothing fancy, but it works. I closed the door and got straight to the point. I want to understand. I want to know why you put this idea in Elena's head. She raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms. Lucas, do you really think I forced Elena into anything? She's a grown woman. I just introduced her to a different way of looking at relationships, something a lot of people do. She made the decision. Don't give me that, Clara. I shot back, feeling my patience wearing thin. Elena would have never thought of this on her own. She always criticized this kind of thing. Clara sighed and sat down on the couch. People change, Lucas. Maybe she realized she wanted more freedom, that she needed a different kind of relationship. I let out a bitter laugh. Freedom? This isn't freedom, it's just an excuse to cheat. Do you really think this is fair? I never gave her a reason to do this. I was never a bad husband. Clara looked me straight in the eyes. And she was never a bad wife. I felt the anger rise inside me. Wasn't she? Then explain to me why she's flaunting Marco now. Like I never existed. She stayed silent for a few seconds. Look, I didn't know she was going to do that. That's on her. But maybe, Lucas, it's time for you to stop torturing yourself and move on. Move on? How, Clara? She destroyed my life. She gave a small smile. You'll figure it out. The conversation stretched on for hours. I still didn't feel like I had all the answers. I glanced at the window and realized it was pouring rain outside. It's dangerous to drive in this storm, I murmured. If you want, there's a spare room. You can stay here tonight. She studied me for a moment, as if weighing my offer. All right, thanks. I grabbed an extra blanket and showed her the guest room. Clara settled in and I went to my bedroom, exhausted. I lay in bed, but my mind wouldn't shut off. I was still filled with anger, with frustration, until, in the middle of the night, I felt a light touch on my shoulder. I opened my eyes and saw Clara standing beside my bed, wearing only the oversized t-shirt I had given her to sleep in. Her gaze was intense, determined. Clara, what is it? She leaned in a little closer. I have a solution to your problem, she murmured. I frowned, still groggy. What are you talking about? She gave a slight smile. Revenge. Elena is with Marco without a second thought, isn't she? So why don't you do the same? My breath caught in my throat. Clara, that doesn't make sense. You think sleeping with you is going to change anything? She shrugged. Why not? Elena embraced this new lifestyle, didn't she? Technically, there wouldn't be anything wrong if you and I got together. I swallowed hard. Lucas, you deserve this. You deserve to feel like you're still in control. She sat down on the bed next to me, her dark eyes locked onto mine. Do you think Elena feels guilty? Do you think she cared about how you felt seeing her with Marco? I didn't answer. Then why should you care? There was something about the way she spoke that hit me directly. I was tired of being the one humiliated. Elena did whatever she wanted without looking back. I was still here, suffering, dwelling on everything, while she was living her new life without a shred of guilt. Clara slid her fingers across my face, tilting my chin toward her. It makes sense, doesn't it? And then it happened. It was a whirlwind of anger, desire, and a need to prove something to myself. I didn't think. I let it happen. That night, all I wanted was to forget the pain, forget the humiliation, forget everything. And Clara was there, willing to help me do exactly that. When morning came, she was still beside me. The room was silent, and for a moment, I felt a crushing weight in my chest. What the hell had I done? I sat up in bed, running a hand over my face. Clara woke up shortly after and looked at me with a satisfied smile. Do you feel better? I didn't know how to answer. Part of me wanted to say yes, that I finally felt like I had taken back some control, but another part of me knew that none of this changed what Elena had done. Clara stood up, grabbed her clothes, and before leaving, she gave me one last look. Now you understand. The world keeps turning, Lucas. You can choose to stay stuck suffering, or you can move forward. She walked out of the room, and I sat there, my mind racing. Maybe Clara was right. Maybe I had spent too much time trying to understand Elena, trying to find answers that no longer mattered. Maybe it was time to stop looking back. That morning, as Clara walked out of my apartment with a satisfied smile on her face, I sat on the bed, lost in my own thoughts. I never thought I would do something like this. I never imagined that one day I would find myself in the same situation that once filled me with rage. But to my surprise, I didn't feel guilty. On the contrary, for the first time since Elena destroyed me, I felt like I had regained a bit of control. It was as if I had stepped out of the role of the victim and was finally playing the same game. In the days that followed, the thought lingered in my mind. I tried to convince myself that it had been a moment of weakness, something that happened on impulse. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Because the more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea. So a week later, I sent Clara a message. Got any plans tonight? She replied within minutes. Nothing I can't cancel. What's on your mind? I typed without hesitation, come over. And she did. That's how it started a constant affair with Clara, Elena's sister. She started coming over more often. and it became part of my new routine. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was just a distraction, something temporary. But as our encounters became more frequent, I realized that I actually enjoyed being with her. Clara was different from Elena. She didn't demand anything from me, didn't pretend we had something deeper than what it was. It was simple, no drama, no fights. When she was with me, I didn't think about Elena. I didn't think about Marco. I didn't think about anything but the moment in front of me. But like everything that seems too good to last, this didn't stay a secret for long. I don't know exactly how Elena found out. Maybe the girls mentioned something without realizing it. Maybe someone saw us together and told her. Or maybe she just felt it. But one day, she showed up at my door, furious. Her face was red with anger, gripping her phone so tightly it looked like she was about to crush it. "So, this is what you've been doing?" she screamed, not even waiting for me to fully open the door. "You're sleeping with Clara?" I stared at her for a moment, saying nothing. I didn't even bother denying it. "And if I am?" Her eyes burned with fury, but it wasn't just the anger of a betrayed wife, it was something deeper. "You're a disgusting bastard." "How could you?" "With my sister?" I crossed my arms, keeping my composure. "Funny, isn't it? When you were sleeping with Marco, it was a new lifestyle. But now that I'm enjoying it, it's suddenly a problem." Her eyes widened in shock. "This is completely different, is it? Because, as far as I remember, you were the one who wanted this kind of modernity. I'm just playing by the rules you set." She ran her hands through her hair, visibly shaken. "This can't continue. This has to stop. We can't keep up this madness." I let out a sarcastic laugh. "You only want to stop now because you lost control of the situation. When you fell for your boss, everything was fine. But when I do the same with someone you know, now it's unacceptable." "She's not just someone I know," she screamed. "She's my sister, Lucas." "My own sister? Don't you have any decency?" "Oh, so now family ties matter to you?" I shook my head, laughing. "Because as far as I remember, you didn't hesitate for a second before tearing our family apart. So tell me, why the hell should I care now?" She looked at me as if she was about to explode, her eyes burning with anger and frustration. "This was a mistake. Everything was a mistake. We should have never done any of this." I crossed my arms. "And what do you suggest?" She took a deep breath, trying to regain control of herself. "Let's stop fighting. Let's be a family again. I know I messed up. I know I did everything wrong, but I want to fix it. I want to come home." I stood there in silence, analyzing her words. I should have said no. I should have sent her to hell, made her pay for everything she put me through. But at the same time, I thought about the girls. I thought about the life we once had. I thought about how, despite all the rage I felt, part of me still wanted that back. I let out a long sigh. "Fine, let's try." And just like that, we moved back in together. Today, Elena is a different person, more dedicated, more present. She works hard to make up for the damage she caused, to be the wife I always wanted. Now she treats me as a priority. Now she seems to understand what she almost lost. But if you think everything went back to normal, you're wrong. Clara was never discarded. She's still in my life. She still comes to see me. The only difference is that now Elena has no idea. And you know what's worse? I don't care. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel like a cheater. Because I learned from Elena that in this game, the one who stays too loyal loses. I just want to be happy, and now I am.